Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com. Now, many of you have asked me if I was going to cover the new recording of Dvorak's 789 with other goodies, featuring Semyon Bychkov and the Czech Philharmonic on PentaTone. And I said, of course I would. And here it is. So, how to describe this? Well, let me tell you a story. I'm going to tell you a story. As some of you may know, I'm kind of a foodie. I'm interested in cooking and more importantly, eating, just as I'm more interested in listening. And so one of the things that sort of fascinated me as a proposition was pasta carbonara. I mean, pasta carbonara. Oh my God, is that delicious, isn't it? It's pasta with bits of pancetta and egg and cream and cheese, and it's so rich and decadent. And I always thought that pasta carbonara, just like sort of fettuccine alfredo too, by the way, they're similar, they're related in sauce terms, was just impossibly heavy and for those of you who may be lactose intolerant, a cause of gastric discomfort, even though it's just unbelievably delicious. There was a restaurant I used to go to in Baltimore when I was in college that was just wonderful, and they had pasta carbonara, and I loved it, but I knew that I would be in trouble if I ate it. So it was sort of like I knew I had 10 minutes after dinner to get to a bathroom, you know what I mean? And I know that that's probably too much information for most of you, but the fact is that pasta carbonara, as it's usually produced in the good old US of A, at places like Olive Garden or wherever, these family restaurants, is this heavy, gloopy, excessively sauced, sort of diabolical, heart attack on a plate, basically. It's a coronary arrest entree. And what does this have to do with Dvorak? Well, then my sister, of whom I've spoken, who lives in Milan, got married and moved to Italy, and I had reason to go to Italy frequently. In fact, I'm going again in a few weeks to visit. And I finally had pasta carbonara as she is done in Italy, and I presume also in some of America's finer Italian restaurants. And oh my God, what a difference! It's light. It's aerated. It's everything is in proportion. The sauce perfectly coats the pasta. It doesn't leave you feeling like you need to, like you're going to be sick. It doesn't leave you feeling like your arteries are clogging. It may very well accomplish the same thing, but it does it so much more nicely with stealth. Anyway, this is the American pasta carbonara of Dvorak performances. That's my point. You knew I'd get there eventually, right? I mean, that's really the point. These are, what you get is Symphony 789 and also the Nature, Life, and Love Overture Trilogy. That is In Nature's Realm, Carnival, and Othello. It's not all dreadful. I mean, it's the Czech Philharmonic. How could it be? But it's often dreadful, and the dreadfulitude, the dreadfulness is all the responsibility of Maestro Bychkov, because these people should be able to play this stuff better without him, and I'll bet they could. These are heavy, joyless, thick, rhythmically flaccid performances. And I was kind of shocked, quite frankly. I mean, that's not true. I expected it, to be honest, because, when you have a native tradition like you do in this kind of music, the orchestra, which has done it a bazillion times. I mean, I've seen them do these pieces live on tour in New Haven, places like that, or Carnegie Hall and whatnot, they play this stuff all the time. And because they play it all the time, they tend to be bored. And they sound bored. They sound bored here. The ensemble isn't crisp. The rhythms aren't well sprung. They're not flashy. Well, let's talk details, shall we? Symphony number 7. The opening movement, well, the tutti sections are compacted, Part of the problem is the sonics. I think this may have been recorded in the Rodolphinum. I mean, if it was, that's just an aircraft hangar of a building. It's an echoey building, a resonant building. So you've got to compensate in the other direction, and they don't. They don't. I mean, the first movement is okay. Everything is just a little under tempo in the allegros. The climaxes somehow seem compressed. I mean, this is PentaTone. It's supposed to be like amazing sonically. The sonics here are dull on top. There's no brilliance. There's no high frequencies, and the orchestra itself just sounds. As it gets louder, it just seems to get thicker, not bigger. You know what I mean? So it's kind of uncomfortable. The slow movement goes quite well. All the slow movements here, actually, except for the Adagio, the eighth, which is a little marmoreal. Maybe that's the word. I don't know. I like the word. That one isn't so good, but the others we'll get to, but they're okay. The scherzo, boy, it just doesn't dance. It doesn't dance at all. And it's in 6/4. It's a wonderful rhythm. Jump, jump, da-da-da-dum, bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 ba-da, bum, 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 ba-da, ba-ba-da. It's nothing happening. Nothing. And the finale, well, that's Bychkov. But, the finale, you always know you're in trouble when somebody treats the opening as ba-da-da-da-dum, ba-da, da-da-da-da, ba-da, because you're going to hear it 100,000 times. And so you can only go da-da-da-da-dum, ba-da, once or twice, and after that it's a mannerism. And that's what it is. It becomes a mannerism. He takes the closing pages very slowly, very grandly. You can hear what he's trying to do, but nothing leads up to it. It's not terrible. It's actually an interesting concept. I give him credit for that. He has some ideas, but it just doesn't sound very good. It doesn't sound comfortable. And Dvorak is always comfortable. I mean, he always just sounds flowing and natural and organic. And this is all just fussy. He's fussy. He's putting too much sauce on the pasta. Let's put it that way. The Eighth Symphony. Ugh, what a mess. The Eighth Symphony, it's unkillable, isn't it? It should be unkillable. The first movement here, it's not bad. The Adagio, as I said, he's sort of, ya da 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 da. You can mess with that phrase to the point where it becomes a little bit affected, which is what happens here. Again, it's not dreadful. It isn't. The third movement, these scherzos. Why? What is it about a theoretical scherzo that Bychkov has a problem with? It's a waltz. Da 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 da. Everything is just a bit under tempo. It's all too slow. And the final theme and variations, it just dies. I mean, the scherzo bit, the ending, that fabulous ending where it sounds like you're, using your finger to speed a 33 LP record up to 78. Da 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 da. Doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. It's just yum bum ba da dum ba da da dum ba ba da dum ba ba ba. It's wrong. That's just wrong. Now, the New World. Well, the New World's been done a billion times. The first movement is boring with its exposition repeat. The Largo is gorgeous with an exquisite English horn solo. I mean, whenever you have woodwinds, playing solo in these pieces with the Czech Philharmonic, you're in good shape. But Bychkov adopts a flowing, it's rather quick tempo actually for this movement, and it is just beyond lovely, and it shows you everything that's wrong with what he's doing everywhere else, because it has that total ease and naturalness that we're always looking for. He's not monkeying about in a way which is, intrusive. He's not throwing too much sauce on the pasta. And then the scherzo is boring. It just doesn't move. And the transparency of texture is so lacking. That scherzo, it's all canonic, right? You're supposed to hear these parts follow each other. And these canonic entries aren't at all balanced. And in the loud part, it's in the bass line. You usually don't hear it unless you're listening to Klemperer. Granted, usually don't. But there's no effort here to try and clarify that texture. It all just congeals, just like, the sauce on the carbonara sinks to the bottom of the bowl and just becomes this putty-like congealed glop. And that's what we got, glop. The finale, okay, the finale has its moments. It's not terrible. The ending, again, is very good. He seems to, really be interested, except in the eighth, which is dreadful, in getting to the end, the grand peroration. Well, okay, that's fine. I mean, if you wake up finally to do the grand peroration at the end, well, go perorate. But it's just a completely mediocre performance in every respect, and not well recorded, as I've said. Now, the fillers, Nature, Life, and Love, which is those three overtures, usually played separately, but they were originally, jammed together as a triptych, and that's how they're presented here. And frankly, that's how I like it to be presented. The best one is Othello. Or Othello, pardon me, I do the Italian version. It's Othello. The Othello overture is, it's a dark work. It seems like darkness is what Bychkov has in mind for most of this music, however joyful it's supposed to be. And, Dvorak without joy. I mean, oh my gosh. Anyway, so Othello's good. I mean, it's dramatic, it's exciting, it's well played. Maybe because it's the least well-known of all of them and everybody kind of woke up for it. There's that. In Nature's Realm is dull, frankly, just dull. And Carnival, oh my God, it's so non-Carnival-esque. Carnival's cha-cha, boom, boom, with the timpani. Listen to Curtis with the London Symphony. You want to hear a carnival? Now that's a carnival. And the end of it, it's supposed to speed up. It's so studied. I mean, it's not, interestingly, I mean, it's not like longer than other performances. It's 9 minutes and 59 seconds. That's the right timing. I mean, that's probably because the central section, the slow central section, doesn't slow down all that much. But the quick parts, they're so studied. It's cha-cha, cha-cha, ba-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-dum, there are moments in music where, you can be very precise and very clear and metronomical even, and it's okay. I mean, you hear details, you hear things like that are finely etched. This is not one of those. This is a piece that's just supposed to explode out of the gate. And if you don't get, every single rhythm with regimented military precision, it's okay. It's really okay. I've seldom heard a drearier carnival. Well, I mean, there are a bunch of dreary ones out there, but this is in that class. So the bottom line here is that nobody needs this. I mean, I was doing spot comparisons. I do that all the time when I listen. Seventh Symphony, the coda of the Eighth, the scherzo of the New World and other moments, the largo and the slow movements and whatnot, and checking out this versus other performances, both with the Czech Philharmonic and without. And every other performance that I heard, I mean, every single one in this same music was better, demonstrably better, really demonstrably, awfully, hugely better. And that was just and better recorded sonically. I mean, play for 789. You've got Sell, you've got Dochnani, you've got all of these other people. You've got all the Czech people. You've got Neumann, who did all that stuff. His first, the stereo, not digital, the analog cycle, which is gorgeous. And then there's Ancherl and Kubelik and Rovitsky and Kertész, who I've just mentioned, and Otmar Sweetener, who's amazingly fine. There's so many choices. I mean, in the Eighth alone, I mean, you've got Blomstedt and you've got Karajan, who's amazing in the Eighth, and you've got, I could just go on and on and on. I'm not going to, but these are some of the things that I listened to when I was listening to these. And you do it, you A/B it, you play a section, then play the other section, and then, compare. And every point, these were inferior. audibly inferior. So if you're looking for a double CD set of audibly inferior Dvorak, or if you want cold American-style pasta carbonara, this is your baby. Otherwise, you can do much, much better. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.